Hello friends, this is a continuation on the movie commentary on the movie Alien 1979. Now I will not number this video as number 6. It's between 5 and 7 because I have a better insight into different aspects or notions or whatever within the movie, right? The flow of the movie itself and the like I said, it's multi-threaded, multifaceted, different foundations, and so on and so forth, all amalgamated and grouped together to make something very complex, right? So I will begin here, and here, some of the main concepts I really broke, for example, broke through understanding the signal concept. What was the signal? Now I know what was the signal, or the circumstances that that caused the derelict ship and whoever was on it, the original Ripley and Sarah, and to broadcast the signal, the warning signal, right? So, but here, I'm gonna make like few comments here. So here, Ripley comes to talk to Lambert, and she asks her something, right? Whether she slept with Ash, right? Now, why is she asking her that? A lot of people may interpret this as lust. There's no lust in this movie, folks. What Lambert is trying to do, as I told you, she is relative, Lambert is relative or mother of Cain, right? But now, I also know from this movie that Ash is related to her. He is her offspring. He's also son of Cain, right? Son of Cain. Right? He's son of Cain. You may say it's the alien. Yes and no. We'll find that out in a little bit, right? Or at least come close to finding out. Now, Sarah or Ripley suspected there's some kind of a relationship between Lambert and Ash, but she's also suspicious that Lambert is not aware of such relationship, right? Because Ash will prove to be a very important character in this particular movie. So here's what she asked her, right? And why did she ask her that? Let's find out. So now she begins by trying to acquire her trust, being nice to her, feeling her pains and so on and so forth. So now she will be lower her guards and she will be disabled. So she will fess up. She will tell her how she feels about Ash, right? And if there is even if Lambert doesn't know, and she has this particular notion about Ash, Ripley will find out if there is a relationship. At the same time, she doesn't want Lambert to know if there's any or if there's not any, right? So here we go.
I don't like it any better than you do, but it's the only way it's going to get us all out, okay?
Now she's emotional.
Oh, I'm sorry, but it just seems like...
She's feigning emotion. She's feigning emotion.
But I promise you.
Tears.
I promise. If it doesn't work, I'm going to get us all out of here, okay? Trust me. All right. I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever slept with Ash? No.
No. See?
Thursday, I don't think he was particularly interested.
Not particularly interested. See? She laughed. The conclusion, the echo is positive. She knows now.
Why don't you come to the bridge and just plot our course? I want to see where we are, okay? Make sure we're still on course. Can you do that?
So here, I promised you to show you that the character of Parker, right, who parks in the parks and parks his car and parks somewhere, right, that they mean by him to be the fallen angel or the devil, right? Now watch, keep looking at his hand, right, and the way his fingers are grouped together and so on as he lowers his hand. You will see that later. He does it one more time, and then at the end you will see it, right? he is part of the world of the xenomorph, if you will. So give me a minute and I'll show you. Notice the hand. Notice the hand, right? It's beginning to look like certain hand in this movie. I will repeat that for you again. You keep watching the hand. Okay, I think I have a better handle now on this, the signal. Now I will be able to explain the signal. Here's my conclusion about this scene. This scene says that there was a battle. You know, that ship landed and they stumbled upon, some xenomorphs, right? However, they realized the situation and they realized also that if they allowed these creatures, or human beings for that matter, with superior intellect, right? To exit the planet, they will dominate to exit from their small planet, which is really Arabia. And why do they call it LV426? Is really because it's a planetoid, really, because those southwest in the Arab Peninsula, they call it a planet because it was isolated, right? Those people in it, and it was isolated for a long time. Even the Romans tried to invade it; they just couldn't go anywhere with that. They faltered and they perished, right? So it was isolated, outside of dominance, outside of invasions, outside. It was its own planet. Let's put it this way: those people in South Arabia, and mainly in Southwest Arabia, were isolated for a long time. Some of them, yeah, they went out on missions and trade routes and so on, but no, nobody really came in there. I mean, there is some, but it's extremely insignificant. The migration into the peninsula itself, at least in the modern age, as we know, past the Stone Age, past the Ice Age, right? However, so now here, some ship landed, which is a derelict, right? Probably others, and then they found that there's some really those xenomorphs that are very big-headed and intellectual and superior intellect and so on. As within one of the deleted scenes, Parker says he's afraid, right? Because now, according to the dogma of those who made the movie and wrote the scripts, right, that among those in Southwest Arabia, there's some supernatural entity, which really, ultimately in the past, made the pyramids, right? They called the Hyksos, Hyksos, right? They're called the Hyksos. They went and built the pyramids and so on, and they somehow revered the cat, right? That's why they built the Sphinx, right? The cat, it has certain characteristics. In the West, right, they went to modern-day Mesopotamia, right? And the Sumerians or Shomarians, which still do exist, right? You'd find them there as an Arab in the Middle East, Arab tribe. And they're called Shamar, or Somar. And then the Achaemenid and so on. So that's a quick history gibberish here, but really it could be well detailed, right? So they attribute to having a supernatural entity or a group of beings, right? Supernatural beings such as the angelic and so on and so forth in that area. That's why the first expedition went there, right? It decided to trap that entity and not allow it from leaving, right? And then kept it within the ship, the confines of the ship, right? And that entity basically trapped everybody, right? The crew, and made the leathery objects or eggs out of them, embryos, right? The ones that he found in the pit, right? And they started sending a signal to the outside world, or out in space, right? Saying, don't come here, don't come here. And sure enough, that entity was trapped. That big, giant entity, which we will observe now as the camera backing out and standing up, right? Because it sees that what happened here is what happened here, right? And then it cannot leave this place. It needs a new host, if you will. But the local derelict ship crew, which apparently are so many, have all perished and are being used are being used, right? So what he's talking about here, maybe humanity going into that place, Southwest Arabia, where they're making the assumption, and there's some truth to that, that there is like a demonic tribes of demonic origin and fallen angels and whatnot, right? So they're trying to tell the people, don't come here, like don't come here, right? And then the entity, that very particular xenomorph that eventually becomes the big entity, is trapped. So let's watch that. Now the ghost or xenomorph or spirit here, right, sees a chance, but it appears to me as this is not the only chance. I mean, this is not a perhaps haphazard occurrence or serendipity or chance, or just somebody was passing through or by or something like that, and then it sees them. Apparently, it had its own minions out in space. And remember when I showed you that some entity or entities entered the spaceship, right? And it does appear like Ash is either one of them or cohorting with them or something of the sort. I will show you an evidence to that. So now it sees, right? The knock here is like of the utmost importance, right? Here's a chance that didn't happen in a long time coming from the outside, right? Now it withdraws and stands up, right? So it's a gigantic xenomorph. So the horns here, the trumpet or horns, I told you what they are, as if there's a fateful turnover of events here. But it could be that the horns here are being blown in the world unseen, where this entity is withdrawing, right? Alerting them that there's something epic that's happening now. There's a chance out, is what that entity is doing, is blowing the horns. No, listen to that. Yeah, so apparently it's been dead for a long time and fossilized. However, we also had heard the same testimony from Ash when he was talking to Dallas and Kane, that this is almost primordial. That means in nature, that means they're not humans, right? However, when those humans landed here, right, they realized the situation, and they were either lost the battle or got sacrificed to make sure that nobody gets out. That these are all assumptions, right? These guys, the writers of the script and their dogma, just talks about things that are not real. I'll tell you who they are. Ridley Scott lied to us when he said his first movie was The Duelists, right? Duelists, gunslingers and duels, right? And that's his second movie. But I think what he meant by the first movie is the dualists, not the duelists. Rather, is the dualist. Dualism is a modern belief. It's not that ancient as they say it is. Probably 1200 years old or even less, right? And what it talks about is good and evil, and the good God and evil God, and where they are, and so on. But those Ridleys and Geiger and so on, they have some fascination about that southwest of Arabia. That's where supposedly the Necronomicon 1, not 2, which is the one that is Giger is influenced by, was written, right? And it's like creatures and blah blah and so on and so forth. There's no one cannot authenticate that book that was talked about by whoever in the modern days, right? Supposedly written by a mad Arab called Abdul Hazarid, right? And Azif, or and so on and so forth. Don't go there, you know. It's all that. But here, the imaginations, right, is about believing that there were really some extraordinary creatures in Southwest Arabia. That is true, right? There was some truth to that. But it's not as you think it is. It's well detailed, right? You need to know anything about that, ask those Egyptian or Saudi or Arab historians, right? Especially the religious parts of it. They will tell you what's going on in there. They know very well, right? The history of that. So that's their dogma, right? And they're making the assumption of it, and so, right? So now a venue out has come to. So there was a battle here, or whoever it is, like I said, the other Ripley, you know, realized what's going on, and now they're sending signal out in space, right, through the 1.6, or you know, I said that the breach here is probably Jonesy. Well, may not be. It's probably that creature, or that xenomorph, or that spirit, or that ghost that stood up when it saw Kane and the rest of the party delving in or entering the chamber, right? And it was just sitting here, right? This is a master chamber, but they just can't go anywhere. But now there's a chance to do so, right? I find those the way they breathe, you know, and the steam above the helmets, looking like whales. You know, whales, right? You know how they breathe from above their head, and you have like this spout of water that rises from their nostrils.
Looks like it's closed out of the chair.
So that's what I mean. Is really the entity, that giant one, is trapped. That's the one that Parker said he was afraid of, because Parker is one, the fallen angel, and so on, right? However, he is, right? He is of the same type, so he knows and sees. And when he saw how gigantic this entity is, he just like faltered, right? He says, you know, like, it's big, right? And he's afraid. So, but now whoever left in that derelict ship and the cavern below it is sending a signal out. Don't come here, you know, like, don't come here.
Like it exploded from inside.
And what happened to the rest of the crew?
Okay, that makes my point here, this particular scene. Let's play it. This is the last scene here I mean, this is the last act in that scene, right? When the face hugger, or the brain and the spinal cord, latch to Kane's face. And this is more of a transformation of the mind and the brain, such as religious convergence, such as possession, such as things of the sort. Here, I think they mean it's more like a possession, you know, like possessed, right? Possession. Again, I don't know what that red spot is, but I think it's some kind of I don't know what they mean by it. You may want to ask Ridley. He can resolve that riddle for us. Right? Notice, as soon as this act is finished, is concluded, guess what happens? They immediately go outside. I commented on this, like they skipped so many stages, right? Recovery of the of Kane and leaving and so on and so forth. Maybe too long. But here's what I think they mean by that. Once that entity latched to Kane's face, right? It had its way out. Now it's released from its perpetual or permanent jail, right? Permanent jail, right? It was there since ancient times. It was there, like it's nearly primordial, right? It's fossilized, blah, 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 meaningly that particular xenomorph, or who was there, now, once it captured Kane, it was out. That's it. It's out. From here on, it's out. So this has happened after a wait of what? Few thousand years, right? Or few, like hundreds of thousands of years, or millions of years. We do not know. But what they're saying here, it's ancient, it's fossilized. This battle, or this thing here, this saga or this epic that happened here, right, on this planetoid LV 426. I don't know what LV is, you know, like live or livid or, you know, I don't know, but we know the 426. I did some mathematics on it. Turns out to be 12 or 4 2 6, right? You know, 4 2 6. These are all occultic numbers. I am not too familiar with them, right? But here now, that entity is just out of, has been released, similar to, say, releasing the genie out of the bottle. But look what happens. Right after that, as if the entity is looking at the ship one last time, right? Because it's leaving to no return. Okay, I got a couple of notes to make here. Now that the entity or the big xenomorph hitched a ride or assimilated itself among the crew, right? The group, the expedition, right? Dallas, Lambert, and Kane in particular. You see, as soon as they come to the ship, right? As soon as they show up near the ship itself, or trying to enter the ship, that's Dallas, Lambert, and Kane, right? They show you the cat. So the cat is now the target or the purpose. She is now thinking about it. Here, I'm always confused whether she already knows what's happening or she's expecting what's happening, or it's some kind of an unconscious process, or something of the sort, right? So now the target is really Jonesy. Jonesy, again, I told you before that he is the recipient of whatever assimilated itself or entered the brain of Kane, right? She and her cohorts will try to transport it or transfer it by, by way of, I'll explain to you the way, to Jonesy. And Jonesy is not a cat. Now I am almost certain, and certain as well, that Jonesy, as I suspected earlier, that's her son, and that's Parker's son. No, I am certain now Jonesy is of an obscure origin. He's not related to her or Lambert, but he's got some special characteristics, right? So he's got some special characteristics that they were searching for him, and that's probably the one they were looking for, right? Because he may have, right, the big xenomorph, big xenomorph or the spirit comes with lots of things. He's a god, right? And he's got money, power, you name it. They trap him, and guess what? They have his decision, and they have his money, and they have his power. So now they can order him to do what they want him to do. But here's something else I want you to notice. Look, she's sitting down as if that space jockey, right? The space jockey is sitting down just like it. Now we know it's her or her ancestor or she in a different life, right? But look here. That's also sitting like the space jockey, right? There's that head. So, and there's exactly, I mean, here I am seeing the space jockey down in that master chamber where they entered the ship, the derelict ship and so on. That looks like him, see? There's a parallelism here. So now I am thinking, what are the helmets, right? I question myself about the helmets. So the helmets are guardian angels maybe, or in the past lives of these guys, or, something of the sort. But here I am looking at it, to me it looks like, roughly speaking, right? There's rough resemblance, somewhat of a resemblance between this here, those ribbed tubes, right? I don't know what you call them in English or mechanically speaking. That looks like the space hugger. I mean the space jockey, and this here looks like the one that has been seized by the space jockey or that xenomorph, right? Or big gigantic space hugger, and where on the space jockey there's a exit wound or where the chest cavity has ruptured and something exited out of it. Look, that's where Jonesy is sitting, right? I mean, there's like pretty good resemblance here, an analogy, right? Analogous, right? This scene is analogous to the space hugger, and it's got more meanings to it as well. I don't know. That's probably her shadow. Could be. So what's in the chest is also shown in the Total Recall, and I think there's something akin to it in Men in Black. You know, in Total Recall, when the chest cavity is open, there's that little man that are, you know, like very wise or evil looking, right? And then he puts his hand on Arnold Schwarzenegger head and reads him and say, you know, start the nuclear reactor or something of the sort, right? So that's that. So that's what's in the chest. Is what, you know, something is akin to that. Jonesy is probably Damien. I am not sure of this. It just hit me, you know, like we're probably talking about the same thing here, Jonesy and Damien, but I am not sure. So now I am thinking, I mentioned this, I believe, that Ripley knows what's going on, but now Kane is the temporary host, right? Ripley and or Sarah or Lilith did not want to part company with Jonesy, right? Like I told you, Jonesy has been trapped from somewhere or found or something of the sort, right? And he's got the qualities or characteristics of a cat. He's a cat person, let's put it this way, right? Oh man, I love cats. If you understand them as much as I do, you will be fascinated. So that's what I think it is. So now Ripley, I am making the assumption that Ripley knows, right? And there's some kind of partnership between, like I said, there's one side here, one alliance, Ripley, Parker, and Brett, right? And they're having Jonesy, you know, like they know. So Parker is going to work with Ripley on that as well. That's his contract. That's his deal, right? So I'm sure she knows, right? I'm sure she knows. And like I said, Kane is really just the host, the transport. So he can take the brunt of the first attack, you know, or if there's any risk on his life, you know. So Jonesy will survive, who's probably Damien, as I mentioned. So Ripley doesn't want to risk Jonesy's life, which is Damien. And I'm not sure about Damien. Okay, there's some evidence or a couple of places where, in a couple of instances where, or when and where, Ash makes a unusual move here. The first one is when Dallas wants to go to see Mother. I made mention of this before. He moves against him and he disappears, right? Which tells me that a lot about him, that he is somewhat of an invisible entity, right? Not the one, right? But there, I told you there are 7 plus 5, so there are 5 neons, extra neons, and extra bars during the title scroll, right? Scroll up or scroll across. And he, right, didn't have his name in there. Now look what he's gonna do.
Fish coffee. It's only been good.
See, he disappeared, right? So let me take you to the other scene. So this is pulling ahead a little bit, but there's an important scene. Remember I showed you the hand, right? Now look at, here there's a deleted scene where he does the same gesture with his hand, right? But look again. Here, they show him as dark, has been changed. Now he's afraid, he's frightened of what he's seen.
It leads up to and comes out in the main airline.
Notice, look at him. I mean, he goes pretty dark, right? He's now like very afraid for himself. This is saying that he's similar to a cuttlefish, right? He's changing color depending on his mood or his fears or his feelings, right? Here he's frightened.
All right.
Notice.
There's only one big opening along the way. We can cover that up, and then
He's not eating here.
I've been in the airlock and zapping into outer space. This son of a bitch is huge.
See, he's afraid. And then in one of the deleted scenes, he tells the party, or he tells the crew that he's, when they met in that room, right? Round table, he says that he's afraid. He's scared.
It's like a man. It's big.
It's like a man. It's big. So that's what Ripley was checking on earlier. She suspects that this guy is related to them. But now, if he is their offspring, they're making the assumption that he always existed. But later he will, you know, like he is in the body of someone in the future, right?
Son.
Kane's son. See, she paid attention.
Come on, Ash. I mean, science department should be able to help us. What can we do to drive it?
Yes.
Okay.
Must almost
Now
retrieve
this.
fine. Yeah?
You can barely see his eyes, right?
Yeah.
He's scared.
Driver, can you rig 3 or 4 incinerator units?
Give me about 20 minutes, I'm doing.
Gets going to the vent.
So here Ash makes another move that is suspicious, similar to the one he made when Dallas went to talk to Mother, right?
Any suggestions from you or...
I've got access to Mother now, and I'll get my own
Notice, he's gonna turn around and he notices.
answers. Thank you.
Uh-uh.
Right.
But he moves on. He enters the hallway. Okay, that is my other evidence here that Ash is really an invisible entity or can become invisible at will, or he is appearing at different stages in history, right? When he is alive all along. Kane's son, maybe, I don't know. Notice when she enters, she closes the door behind her. See? Now we don't see Ash in there, do we? Now here comes the very surprise. He appears out of nowhere, right?
There's an explanation for this.
He appears from nowhere, which means how, I mean, my question is, how did he enter Mother? When we know when she entered, does he have access? If he has access, she didn't see him, right? So here's first time he walks with, before Dallas, when Dallas wanted to talk to Mother, and then now when she enters. So these two instances, along with him saying Kane's son, right? And then staring at the camera, that is Kane's son, right? That is Kane's son. So can this be Ishmael? No, I don't think so, because later in the movie, this proves to be a certain historical personality. I will tell you about it when we get there. Now we'll just get ahead of ourselves here, but I needed to show you that. So he is invisible, and that has implications. He becomes invisible and he becomes visible, right? He kind of on and off, right? So he has his own agenda operating on his own. He's related to no one, but he's Kane's son at the same time. So notice the hand gesture. You may think this is meaningless. Oh, this is meaningful. You know how he raises his hand here, his arm and his hand from the elbow up. Notice, this is very important. I will show you that later. Try again. And his left hand. So that's his Kane, that's his son, right? Historic personality. Here you're confused about the ages, right? But that's part of the purpose of the producers and the actors and so on, or the directors, is to confuse you. See if they clear, that's why they cut some of the scenes. Otherwise, anyone would figure it out. They would leave it up to your unconscious to understand it, right? Notice. He breathes, right? Notice. See? He breathed while this guy raised his hand. Oh, sorry, I forgot to pause it. So now, here, he is standing, he's not sitting, meaning he is communicating with that entity that is circling the table, right? Somehow, either by gesture or something, right? Right? He picked up the milk. There was an encounter between certain historic personality and an angel, and milk has something to do with it. Notice. Oh, somebody threw something for him, right? Notice. So you see that? Notice. Notice his hand is extended and he's grabbing something that is thrown to him by somebody. Did you see that?
I am cold.
So now what I'm thinking is this guy is on the plot. He knows what's going on. He's just pretending hard, right? Right? So still with us, Brett, I am now making a different assumption that Parker, is talking to Ash probably. Still with us, Brett? Right? And this guy is a little bit curious. She's cold. She's out cold.
Still with us, Brett?
Still with us, Brett, right? I think that's what it is.
Right.
So he is eating, and the cat is eating, Jonesy is eating, and he feels very like sore throat or something of the sort, right?
Oh, I feel dead. Anybody ever tell you you look dead?
Are they really talking to that invisible entity now about Brett, that here is your host, here is the next host, the transport host? Maybe. As you can see, I explained this before. There is no love lost between the two. Remember when he stood up, how he bowed down to him and how Parker looked at him from behind. So there's no love lost here. There's animosity. But this guy is very wary of this guy, although this guy is far smarter than this guy, right? Parker, or who is, I explained to you earlier, the fallen angel. What are they also talking about? Maybe they're talking to the entity about forgot something.
Something, man. Before we dock, I think we ought to discuss the bonus situation, right? Hey, Brett and I, we think we deserve full shares, right?
You see, Mr. Park and I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable level.
Well, you get what you contracted for, like.
I want to show you something here, right?
Right.
Brett and
I explained to you about the breadcrumbs.
we deserve full shares, right?
You see, Mr. Park and I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable level.
Well, you get what you contracted for.
Breadcrumbs. You will get what you're contracted for.
Everybody else.
Like everybody else. Give me a second. I want to show you something. Okay, this is the Shining, right? Halloran is Parker. He is really the fallen angel here. This is Ripley, and this is Jonesy, or Damien. Notice what he says, relevant to breadcrumbs. When Dallas talked to Parker, and he said, you'll get what you're contracted for, and he started throwing breadcrumbs like everybody else, right? Notice what she says to him now.
Enormous maze. I feel like I'll have to leave a trail of breadcrumbs every time I come in.
She has to leave a trail of breadcrumbs every time she comes in.
But still in nothing but a kitchen. A lot of this stuff you'll never have to touch.
I wouldn't know what to do with it if I did.
Well, one thing for sure, you don't have to worry about food. Because you folks have eaten up here a whole year and never had the same menu twice. Now, right here is our walk-in freezer. Where we keep all of our meat. We got
That's
15
buddies.
rib roasts.
These are the leathery eggs.
We got 12 turkeys, about 40 chickens, 50 sirloin steaks, 2 dozen of
So let me run that by you again.
But everybody else.
Hey, Brett and I, we deserve full shares, right?
Right. You see, Mr. Park and I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable level.
Well, you get what you contracted for.
Bread crumbs.
Yes, but everybody else, it's more than us.
Mother wants to talk to you.
You see what I'm talking about? All these movies really hover around the same subject, center around the same subject, or orbit around the same dogma or belief. That is that of the dualist. Oh, there's more comparison I can do here. So, okay, let me pause it. And you saw the freezer, right? Filled with meat, right? The meat is something similar to those, they're calling turkeys, they're humans. Chickens, they're humans. Steaks, they're humans, and so on and so forth. So Halloran and Wendy are like Ripley and Parker. All right. So now I have a point to make here. The entity that is circling, right, is probably communicating with Ash, right? Because it's facing Ash. And the entity sensed, right? Let's play that back.
Yes.
So the entity is sensing now who is who here. It's figured out that Ripley, Parker, and Brett are on the same page, and now it's trying to figure out who is dangerous and who is not. Notice, Ripley, Parker, and Kane never go down the ship, that derelict ship, right? So the entity here that is circling the table, right, is seeing what's going on. And it seems like this guy is communicating with it. Notice.
I am cold.
So now the entity is facing him, right?
Still with us, Brett.
Right. He's dead.
Anybody ever tell you he looked dead? Oh yeah, right. I just forgot something.
See? I think that's a signal. I think now he's telling the entity, oh, look at this guy. He's got some agenda. That he's facing that camera or where that spirit is, and he's telling her or it or him or whatever, right? The xenomorph that is circling and watching, observing the chat and who's who and the alliances and so on. Now that look says, be careful of him, right?
Before we start, I think
See, I mean, this is very obvious.
we ought to discuss the bonus situation.
Right.
Brett and I, we think we deserve full shares, right?
Right. You see, Mr. Park, I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable.
Are they trying to offer their services now, but they just want more money? Maybe he sees, like we saw, he sees the spirit, right? He looked at the camera, which is the spirit. Now he's offering some kind of a deal. He wants more, right? Like they're offering their services for higher price. He and Parker.
Well, you get what you contracted for, like it.
I think that's what it means here. Notice.
Before we start, I think we ought to discuss the bonus situation.
Right.
Brett and I, we think.
Here, excuse me.
He's dead.
See? They're probably trying to double deal here.
Anybody ever tell you he looked dead?
Oh well, I'm just trying to guess here. I'm sure I haven't arrived at the final explanation of this, but guess what? I think I'm rolling on that very track that the writers or the authors of the script wrote, what they had in mind when they wrote it. All right, let's see. So Wendy said, this whole place is such an enormous maze. I feel like I have to leave a trail of breadcrumbs every time I have to come in. So So you see what I'm saying, right? You know the similarities between the two. I can explain that one, of course, to you. Who Jack is. Jack, Jack Nicholson in The Shining is really the xenomorph, right? Or, well, let's leave that alone. But breadcrumbs, you saw breadcrumbs, right? Here.
Oh, yeah, right.
So they're trying to make a deal now, probably.
I just forgot something, man. Before we start, I think we ought to discuss.
And I think I saw here, although he's eating, right?
Oh, yeah, right. I just forgot something.
Notice his gesture. He swallowed hard, like, I don't know. I mean, I can read so much into this, but I think he's communicating because he became invisible a couple of times, right? And he is Cain's son. He is Cain's son.
Before we start,
See, he swallowed, right?
I think we ought to
I think what he said is, take care of this guy, right?
discuss the bonus situation.
Because he, if you recall, wants to freeze Cain. He doesn't want this thing to spread. That's Parker.
Right.
Brett and I, we think we deserve full shares, right?
Right. You see, Mr. Parker and I feel that the bonus situation has never been on an equitable level.
Well,
There are your breadcrumbs that Wendy left a trail of.
you get what you contracted for, like everybody else.
Yes, but everybody else.
All right, you know what? I think I should stop here now, and I have more points to make, so I'll make another video on commentary as well. So this is intermediate commentary, video number 1, and I will put intermediate commentary on number 2 video as well before we proceed to video number 6. Have a nice day.